Morning, MYM Insiders. Thanks for joining me this morning on our Customer Business Accelerator call, our Contractor Business Accelerator call. It's been a while since we've done this particular call, so I'm glad that we can kind of jump back in the saddle now that the vast majority of our clients are indeed remodeling companies. It doesn't seem to be a huge need to hold contractor-specific calls, but that's what we're going to do today. But here's the reality. I think that the concepts that we're going to cover today could just as easily be applied to many companies. In fact, I'll share with you some, well, from my perspective at least, somewhat humorous anecdotes about applying these exact same concepts to my business. And clearly we are not a remodeling contractor. We are a marketing services company. But you know what? Customer service is customer service. So let's talk about this a little bit. I'm going to go through about 6 different points. I've got some funny little pictures to introduce some of the concepts today. So it'll be a fun yet hopefully informative kind of a webinar today. So we're going to talk about going from being nice to generating and developing and maintaining raving fans. I read a book years and years ago called Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard. It's an interesting little book. It's one of those books written in the parable format where a guy learns a lesson. He's got a fairy godmother. It's a little bit cheesy, but if you can get past the cheese factor, which is pretty easy to do, I mean, it's a story. So what? It's fun. It's got some good information about taking and making customers really buy into your vision of what you're trying to do and really getting people to become, like the phrase says, raving fans. And that's an interesting place to try to get to. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's go ahead and jump in here. Let me make sure everything's working okay on, whoops, on my screen here. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. So creating raving fans. You're not going to develop a raving fan by just doing a great install, finishing on time, and smiling when you do it all. Now, that's obviously a good place to start, but we don't want to talk just simply about being nice. This is about taking it to the next level. You have to do things a little bit different, above and beyond ordinary and average. And the key here is to plan ahead and to systematize. These are things that are not going to happen just by accident or happenstance, or, you know, you're not going to luck into this kind of stuff. It takes planning, and this is why customer service that's fantastic is so rare, because not that many companies really focus on it. And this is an area where you can really stand apart. And the good thing is, when you do this, not only are your customers going to fall in love with you, which is what we want, but also it's going to blow up your referral business, okay? You got to orchestrate it. So let's orchestrate this. So 6 general premises. This is going to be what we're going to talk about for the rest of the webinar today. So let me just put them on the screen. An educated customer is a happy customer. Better than average communication, better than average appearances, doing something unexpected and memorable, dealing with inevitable problems that come up, and getting real buy-in from your team to make it all happen. Okay, so these are the things we're going to talk about, and let's talk about an educated customer being a happy customer. And, you know, I hate to put this on here because it's kind of gross. It's actually a lot gross, but just kind of go with the flow on this. People's expectations with home improvement is not that high. And as it says here, I'll set my expectations low so I'm not disappointed in how I'm treated. And, you know, I know that home improvement contractors are different than service contractors, although there are a lot of similarities. We had 2 repairmen into my home recently to fix 2 different things. One thing was a refrigerator problem. The other thing was an electric problem with some light ballasts that had gone out. And if you've heard me much, you know that I have no idea how to fix anything, so I call people in to fix stuff. And the guy came in to fix the refrigerator, and he was very cordial and friendly and just a nice person, and it was a pleasant experience. I mean, you're getting your refrigerator fixed, and you're not happy about that, but hey, at least the guy was friendly and nice and things like that. Well, the guy came over from the electric company, whole different story. The guy was grouchy. He was curmudgeon-y. I remember I came down stairs. He was in the kitchen working on one of the lights. My wife was down there. She had let him into the house and showed him what the problem was. I walked down into the kitchen while he was there, his back was to me. He never turned around. He never acknowledged that I walked into the room. He never looked up. He just kept on working, which I thought, okay, whatever, the guy's busy. Whatever. And then I ended up leaving and went somewhere else, and my wife said, yeah, the guy was just the biggest curmudgeon ever. He was not friendly. He acted like he was being put out to have to be there. And, that's not that unusual, right? So we want to change that. A confident customer is educated. You should educate your customers starting in your marketing, okay? It starts in your advertisements, in your pre-positioning. These are all things we've talked about a million times. Pre-positioning, product information, company information on your website, and all of this is stuff that happens before the sales meeting. And what we're trying to do, I've been using this a little bit lately, is using this word that doesn't normally go with remodeling contractors or even business for that matter, but the word is love. We're trying to make people fall in love with your company so that they really like doing business with you and want to do business with you. And this can occur before you show up. Now, here's the idea. Here's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to set expectations for our clients so that they like us or love us before we show up. And then, of course, when we actually do show up, we want there to be consistency, and we want to do things above and beyond so that everything from the beginning, advertisements, pre-positioning, website, et cetera, all the way through the actual experience is consistent. That's how you're going to create a raving fan, okay? So we want to use confirmation bias to our advantage. And by way of review, I know we talk about this a lot. If you ever get the feeling like on these webinars, hey, he's talking about confirmation bias all the time, I'd like you to stop and think for a minute, why is he talking about confirmation bias all the time? And the answer is because it's absolutely positively critical, okay? Confirmation bias, people look for evidence to support what they believe, ignore or minimize evidence that goes against their beliefs. And, of course, Barack Obama is on here as the ultimate polarizing figure. If you love him, then everything he does is awesome. If you hate him, then everything he does is unawesome. But, the reality is, I hesitate to use a political example because, people look at your political leanings and say, well, I don't agree, so therefore I don't want to do business with you, or I hate you, or something else. Without revealing my political leanings, and, maybe you can guess you've listened to me enough. It doesn't really matter. But, I had an interesting experience last week. It was tax day, and I saw an article on Facebook that somebody had posted, and the person who posted the Facebook clearly was conservative and clearly was an anti-Obamite, okay? And the article said that President Obama only contributed $1,500 to his church per his tax return in the year 2013. And I thought, okay, I'm a sucker for articles, so I read it. And what I found out was this. I didn't read the entire article because I wasn't that interested, but he had donated something like $56,000 to charity, and it was in $1,500 increments, it looked like. And there was some things on there that, as I looked at it, all of them looked to be, worthy causes. I didn't see anything on there that looked like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he would donate to that. And one of the things was to his local church there, and it was a $1,500 donation. And the tone of the article was, oh my gosh, look at the president. All he does is give $1,500 measly dollars to a church. And it was kind of like, what a loser. And I thought, first of all, it really isn't any of our business how much money the president gives to his church. Number two, I'm sure we could find a lot of people around us that as a percentage of income give as much or less than Barack Obama. And number three, he given $56,000 to charity. And somebody told me it was on I think about a $700,000 income. And you know what? This is called confirmation bias. It just proves one more time that we will find something that we like if we're trying to find something we like, and we will find something we hate. Now, this is absolutely critical when it comes to your entire business, but not just your entire business, particularly this thing called customer service, because what we want to do, per the story of Holiday Inn Express, and I won't go through that whole story. I think I told it last week. Holiday Inn Express has the big shower head, and they have all the signs telling you that they have the big shower head, and it makes you like the big shower head more than you would if you didn't see the big shower head signs. And the idea is this: we want to find things in our business that we can point at and let people know that we do, so that they'll notice it and they'll assign a value to it, so that they will look for evidence to support what they already believe. The key here is we got to give them something to believe. So if we tell them that we have outstanding customer service, if we tell them that we're not going to hammer dunk them in the sales appointment, if we tell them that we're not going to play pricing games and we're not going to give big, fake, phony discounts, and if we tell them that we're going to be on time, and if we tell them that we're going to be, have a good appearance, then these are things that they will then proactively notice that otherwise they might have just sort of let slide under the radar. They wouldn't actually notice them even though we were doing them, okay? So the question you need to ask yourself in your business is, what do you want to point at? You want to point at what kind of shower head? Most remodeling companies have things that they do well. You've got to identify those things and articulate them so that it's impossible to miss. If they can't tell what to expect when they do business with you, then you lose. You have to tell people what to expect. You have to point at your shower head. This is the identity, okay? And we've talked about identity a lot over the last couple of years. However long you've been affiliated with MYM, you've been hearing me talk about identity. And this is sort of a backdoor approach to coming to this topic of identity and saying, we've got to point at things, because if we do this, here's what's going to happen. People they will fall in love with your company based on your communication of your identity before you ever show up. So customer service automatically goes up by simply having an identity. Does that make sense to you? This is a website that I've shown. I don't want to look at this one. I do want to show this one, though. This is one you've seen 1,000 times, and I show it all the time. It's sort of the main case study we show in a lot of the MYM stuff. But I want you to look at this and think about it for a second. This is the persnickety remodeler, Revive Remodeling. Persnickety, demanding, hard to please, picky. Then I'm the remodeler for you. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the cheapest. I am, however, according to my customers, the best. And then right below his face there it says Don Isaacson, master remodeler, obsessed with perfection, and then a link where you can read more. Now, here's what I want you to think about on this. From a customer service standpoint, if you say that you are the persnickety remodeler and you put this out there, now what's going to happen is confirmation bias is going to allow people in the sales meeting, when they actually finally meet you, or in this case Don, to be looking for the things that we've promised, in this case persnicketyness, demandingness, hard to pleaseness, pickiness, and they're going to see it. It was there all along. It didn't just suddenly appear because he started talking about it, but people now notice it, and you as a business get credit for things that you want to get credit for. This is the idea of pointing at the shower head. This is why confirmation bias is so absolutely critical to your business, because now when you ask people after the fact, what did you think about Don Isaacson? They say, wow, he was great. He was really picky and persnickety. Whereas before, if you said, hey, what did you think about Don Isaacson? They would say, he was great. He seemed to do a good job. I liked him. And there's a huge difference between he was great, I liked him, and oh my gosh, he was awesome. He was so persnickety and demanding and hard to please. And they notice those things. This is what we want to do. It could be based on your actual product itself. Here's one for renewal by Andersen Windows. Most window companies claim they've got the best windows. We unapologetically claim to offer the world's only perfect window. We've taken all the best parts from all the top windows, eliminated everything that isn't 1,000% optimal, and engineered the only window that promises and delivers perfection. Okay, we've set a bar. Okay, that's how this works. Another example. Good Guys Construction. It isn't just a name. It's who we are, how we think, what we do, and an ironclad promise that you'll be treated right. No games, no gimmicks, no gotchas. We refuse to compromise quality or ethics to land a job or pad our profits. We offer fair, honest prices on premium caliber interior and exterior remodeling, what to expect from the good guys, and so on and so forth. So the idea here is we're setting expectations using precise, passionate, powerful language that allows people to understand what our identity is. This is the first step to customer service. You know, it's funny because we take this concept of identity, and then no matter where we go in marketing, this thing doesn't just follow, it leads. Identity is the key to conversion ability on your website. It's the key to a successful home show. It's the key to customer service. It all starts with identity. And I would like to personally thank you, my customer at MYM, for understanding, buying into, and believing in this concept and allowing us to work with you, because it makes all the difference in the world. So I'm pleased that you're here with me today. The other things that we can do is put together these kinds of product guides, replacement guide to windows, the last roof you'll ever buy, permanent roofing solutions, design portfolio, selecting a roofing contractor, electric, with a woman's touch, what you need to know about gutter protection, sunroom idea guide and portfolio. You've seen this kind of stuff. You're familiar with it. Contractor standards guide also is a big part of confirmation bias, putting out there the standards in terms of financial stability, reputation, professionalism, and workmanship that you uphold to your customers and prospects and to the community at large, and allowing people to see those, understand those, and then use confirmation bias to your advantage, okay, because they're going to look for those things. So let's move on to the next thing here, because we got to kind of move through. We've only gone through one of the 6 things. The second one, well, let's take a look here. Cayman Islands, there's nothing like a 3.5-week gap between when you take my deposit and the next time I hear from you. Outlook, not so good. What we're trying to do here is use communication, expectation setting, okay? Don't make people guess. You've done how many jobs in your career? Thousands of jobs. You know exactly what to expect. You know exactly when things are going to happen. But your customer's never done this before. They don't have any idea at all what to expect. They don't know when to expect things to be done. So the more you communicate with your customer, the more you communicate with your customer, the more confidence they're going to have in you. So let me give you some ideas for doing that. First of all, create a written time frame that you give the customer at the time of ordering. Okay? Now, I'm going to pause here for a moment, and I'm going to make an admission, and I'm going to show you something. Let me find it real quick. Hang on. I wasn't really planning on doing this, but, what the heck. Okay. All right. I'm going to put this on the screen. Now, this is what we've done for our clients. Monopolize Your Marketplace, MYM New Client Quick Guide. And then it says a reference to the people you'll be working with at MYM. Here's the person's name. Here's their phone number. Here's their email. You'll notice these aren't filled in because these are ones that will be filled out on a client-by-client basis depending on who gets approved. And then we go to Getting Started, Housekeeping. And you can see duration. It's ongoing. Here's what happens. Here's the things you need to do. You need to fill this in. Here's the things we're going to talk about. Here's our approval process, just so you know. Here's identity and website. Here's how long it takes, 4 to 6 months. Here's what time is required for the consultation. Here's how long it takes for the first draft of the identity. Here's how long it takes for revisions. Here's how long it takes for a site plan. Here's how long it takes for website copy creation. Here's how long it takes to actually build the website. Here's what pre-positioning is, and here's how long that takes to do. And here's what everything else is. Now, we had to create this because of the exact same thing that you're experiencing in your business, which is our customers haven't ever built websites before. If they have, it's been very few times. They're not that familiar with it, and they're certainly not familiar with our particular protocols and processes and time frames. So you just have to give people a written time frame. And what we're finding with our customers, and I'll suggest this to your customers, for you and your customers, is you just have to keep hitting them over the head with it, because people forget and they don't know, and they hear things and they want to believe things, or they'll sort of warp the reality a little bit to fit their paradigm of what they think or what they want. And that's okay. You just need to keep communicating with people, okay? Keep communicating with them. Let them know, not just once, multiple times. Have a production manager call the day of or after the order to introduce themselves, reaffirm the time frames that were told to them during sales. If there's a gap between the order and the install, set up weekly updates via email. So In other words, if it's for your business, if it's 3 weeks between the order and the install, you need to let them know that you didn't forget about them. You can't say, okay, well, you know, we've got this order, we'll be back in 3 weeks. During the 3 weeks, you need to come in and say, okay, it's been a week, we expect to have these in another week, and then schedule to get out there, you know, on approximately the 10th of May or whatever the case is, okay? It's a multi-day installation. Have the crew chief give the homeowner a daily update of the progress and an estimate of the remaining time, okay? Remaining time. The best example I can think of that's really small and insignificant on this kind of an issue is when I've called for customer service to my credit card company, and I use a Citi Visa. I also have a Citi MasterCard. And they're really, really good at the following. They're really good when you get on the phone and saying, okay, Mr. Harshaw, I'm going to investigate that, whatever it is. I'm going to put you on hold. It's going to be about 2 or 3 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah, I guess so. And then they put me on hold for 2 or 3 minutes. And because they told me that it's going to be 2 or 3 minutes, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. On the other hand, think about this. You call up your credit card company and they say, okay, well, let me look into that, Mr. Harshaw. They put you on hold. And after about a minute, you start to wonder if they forgot about you. After 2 minutes, you start to wonder if they're still even there. After 3 minutes, you're starting to get really frustrated and anxious, and you might even hang up and try to call back in. And it's just that little comment of expectation setting that makes all the difference in the world. I'm going to put you on hold for about 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to find my supervisor, and I'm going to ask this question to see if I can get a resolution. Is that okay, Mr. Harshaw? Yep, that's fine. Great. And they put you on hold. It's the same kind of thing. You're putting your customers on hold. Not that you're literally putting them on hold, but it takes some time. You need to communicate that so that they understand it, okay? Next, have someone follow up with the customer when the job is complete within a couple of days. So the installation crew does their job and they leave, then have somebody else come in and see how everything was. And after 30 days or 90 days after the job, have someone follow up again. This is going to be a nice way to really let people know, hey, these guys must care. They've been done for 90 days, and they're calling, hey, we just wanted to do a 90-day checkup. I show that your windows were installed 90 days ago. Has anything gone wrong? Are there any problems? Is there anything else we can do for you? How is it? And, you know, if you've done your job right, 99 times out of 100, what are they going to say? Oh, no, everything's great. Hey, thanks for calling. Appreciate it. And it's going to be a very positive interaction. It only needs to be 30 seconds. It's not a big deal. You have to have internal processes in place to ensure that the proper person knows when they should do what. This is key. And this is your job as the business owner. And this is, again, just chuckling as I'm putting this webinar together because these are the exact things that we're putting together in our business right now, making sure that we've got the right people with the right communication at the right time. And hey, you know what? We haven't always been awesome at this. This is something that we've had to work on, and it's something that you have to work on. It's something that all businesses have to work on. So just take this time and say, you know what? We're going to make sure that we up our communication. Make a goal to have at least 4 different people from your company have contact with the customer in addition to the work crew. That's going to be the salesperson for sure. And then there's going to be a customer service type manager, maybe an installation manager, something like that, call within a couple days. You're also going to have somebody after the fact that's going to communicate. Maybe 3 people, maybe 4 people. Okay, see what you can do. Maybe the accounting person puts in a call. I don't know. End result of good communications, your customer feels valued. They feel like everything that they learned about you before the sale, remember that pointing at the shower head? They've now found evidence to support that what you told them was going to be true actually, in fact, is true. Confirmation bias is now going to work for you, not against you. And I'm going to tell you, confirmation bias, it's a double-edged sword, I'm telling you, because if the customer starts to get any kind of inkling that things aren't going to be good and things are going to be messed up, they will then proactively start looking for problems. And then you've got a spiral out of control situation where no matter what you do, the client finds something negative and says, aha, I knew it, just like I thought. And they start looking for more and more bad things. I'm telling you, confirmation bias is your best friend or it's your worst enemy. Somewhere, it's not going to work in between. It's going to be on one of those 2 extremes. I suggest that you make it work for you, okay? Next, customer doesn't have a chance to get nervous about their project. Hey, I wonder what's going on. Hey, I haven't heard anything. And, same thing, confirmation bias starts working against you in that situation. They feel like they have someone they can turn to if there's a problem. Again, look at this thing over here. This was our form that we send to our customers. Who do I turn to if I have a problem? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 different people. All right. Confidence goes through the roof. That's what we want. Let's move to the next topic. Recent payrollee. Not what you want your customers to think when they see your workers. Okay, this is probably not what we're trying to accomplish. You got to look the part. You got to look the part. Now, a couple stories here. One is Joe, the installer. This goes back to a company I worked with in Philadelphia. It was a sunroom company back in 2008, and actually it was 2009. The recession had hit this company hard. I was up there trying to help them turn things around. Ultimately, did not work. They failed hard, and they went out of business. And it was not just a marketing problem. It was a systemic problem throughout their entire company. But this guy, Joe, was a very definite barometer of what was going on in their company. So I was talking to them about a contractor standards guide and something called a worker conduct agreement. And it talks in the worker conduct agreement about appearance standards and language standards and music standards. And they started reading it, and they started laughing. And they said they were just laughing at me. And I said, "What's so funny?" And they said, "Well, you've never met Joe, have you?" And I said, "No, I haven't. Who's Joe?" And they said, "Well, he's our lead installer." And I said, "Oh, well, what's the problem?" They said, "Well, Joe wouldn't necessarily fit these standards." I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, go get Joe." They sent somebody to get Joe. About 2 or 3 minutes later, a guy sticks his head into the doorway, puts his hands up on the door sill. He's tall. And the first thing he says is, "What the F is going on in here?" And I look at this guy, and he's wearing a multicolored stocking cap. He's not clean shaven. He's wearing a wife beater T-shirt thing, and he's wearing red sweatpants that have at least 15 or 20 holes. I can see his underwear. And I'm thinking, please don't tell me this is Joe. Sure enough, this was Joe. This was this company's lead installer. Now, let me tell you something about this company. This was not just some little dinky company that was doing $500,000 a year in sunroofs. This was the number one sunroom company for four-season sunrooms in the year 2006. Now, this is now 2009. They did something like $15 million a year in sales. You with me? This is their lead installer, Joe. Joe came into the room, proceeded to use sailor-like language for 3 or 4 minutes until I couldn't stand to be around the guy anymore, and he finally left saying, "F this, I'm not doing this F and S because this is a bunch of F and S, and this is BS if you think I'm going to change the way I F and do things, F and F and F and F and." And I was thinking, wow, interesting. This is your lead installer. And I said, "Is that a problem?" And they said, oh no, everybody loves Joe. They know he's just kind of rough around the edges, but, even our customers love Joe. And I thought, you know what, it's Philadelphia, and I know people are a little bit rougher in Philadelphia, whatever. They throw snowballs at Santa Claus at the Eagles games or whatever the case is. But I just wouldn't want that guy in the home when my wife and kids were there. I just wouldn't want him there. I wouldn't be comfortable at all. And I don't think they understood that while some people thought it was cute that this guy was such a obviously unstable human, that it was not helping their business. It was not helping their business. Now, that's not the reason they went out of business. They went out of business because they had 53 things like Joe going wrong in their business. But, certainly that doesn't help. We don't want that. The story about Samuel, it's the story about Samuel, the prophet in the Old Testament, when he went to find the new king. And he went to the house of Jesse. He was told that one of Jesse's sons will be the king. And he went to Jesse and he said, "The Lord has told me that one of your sons will be the king." And he said, and Jesse said, "Well, surely it must be my oldest," because obviously in those days the oldest son had the birthright, and it was a big deal to be the oldest son. And he brought his oldest son to him, and Samuel looked at him, and sure enough, he was big and he was strong and he was good looking and he was the oldest. And the Lord tapped Samuel on the shoulder and said, "This is not the king. This is not the one that's supposed to be the king." And Samuel said, well, why not? Everything looks great. And there's a famous line from the Bible that comes from this story, and here's what it is. It says, the Lord looks on the inside and judges the heart, while man looks on the outside. And sometimes we take that, well, the rest of the story is he went to the second son and the third son and the fourth son, all the way down to the sixth son, and the Lord kept telling Samuel that it wasn't any of those sons. And finally, Samuel looks at Jesse, the father, and says, well, the Lord has told me that none of these sons are the next king, so, what's wrong? And Jesse said, well, I have one more son, but he's not even here. He's out in the field. He's my youngest, and he's watching the sheep because that's what we make him do. And they brought him in and said he had a ruddy complexion, and he was small and frail, and his name was David, and he became King David, the same one that took out Goliath with the sling and ultimately became the king, King David. And the line is, again, the Lord looks on the inside, people look on the outside, and people sometimes misinterpret that story. And they misinterpret that story to say, well, it really matters what's on the inside because that's where God looks. And that's true, and that is one reasonable interpretation of that story. But here's what I think is the even more important interpretation. Men are going to look at the outside. And you say, well, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't judge me by the way I look. But guess what? They do. And if you look like crap, a la Joe the installer, people are going to judge you. And if it's right or wrong, you say, well, God knows my heart, and I'm good, and I'm all these things. Doesn't matter, because they're going to take a look. And I suggest that you get your appearance in line with the way that people want to see a remodeling contractor. Now, that was a long story, and it was probably more than you needed to just make the simple point of you need to look good. But I want you to think through that a little bit, that it does make a huge difference. Here's the areas where you should look good. In your marketing, okay? Advertisements, pre-positioning, your website, of course. This is why we made the decision, and it's been about a year ago that I said, hey, the websites that we're creating look good, but they don't look great. And we went away from our easier to build, easier to manage site builder sites like the Revive remodeling site, and we started building custom HTML sites that have just a nicer, higher gloss to them. They just look a lot better. That's why we did that. That's why you should probably use Monopolize Your Marketplace to do all of your graphic design so that it matches your website and matches everything else. Because, we see this all the time. Companies use us for the things that they've bought from us, but then they'll put their own ads together, their own graphic design for other things, and they're a disconnect, and they look like crap, and they don't look the part. You don't want to do that. Next, your company vehicles. I recommend that you wrap your vehicles. They should be kept clean at all times. I mean, obviously, if it just, had a big dirty rain and you haven't had a chance, but you need to clean these vehicles inside and out on a regular basis. I recommend that you use U.S.-made trucks. None of your customers are going to get upset with you for having a Ford or a Chevy or a Dodge out front, but there may be some that look at negatively at a Toyota or a Nissan. I'm not having any kind of comment right now about how good the various trucks are. I don't really know. I don't really care. And you know what? There's a lot of people that don't care what kind of truck you drive at all. But I'm telling you, there are some that do care. And particularly in certain parts of the country, if you're driving around the Detroit area and you're in a Nissan pickup truck, you're going to get screwed. You just don't want to do that, okay? Down here in Texas, you may want to have a U.S. truck. Just things that you might not have thought of, okay? Your sales rep. Now, it says polo shirt. I wouldn't be opposed to your guy showing up in a tie with a nice shirt on. I'm not saying he has to. I'm saying the more he looks the part of the professional, the better it's going to be. Name badge, clean. You can get into a whole set of discussions about, does it make a difference if a guy's clean shaven? Can he be, wearing a goatee or a beard? Or what if he has the ponytail? What about piercings and tattoos? I'm telling you, the more professional a guy looks, the better off he's going to be representing your company, okay? That's just my opinion. Installers. Installers need to look the part. I'd make sure that they're in company T-shirts or polo shirts, whatever the case is, depending on what you want to do. Make sure that they're clean, that they don't wear, wore out, dirty stuff. Communications, letters, phone calls. You say, well, how do you look good in a phone call? Well, it has a lot to do with the caliber of the voice of the person that you're talking to, doesn't it? And you know what I'm talking about. Letters, they look nice, they're formatted well, etc. Things to think about. Now let's move on to the next point. I think we're on point number 5. Holy crap, didn't see that coming. We're going to talk about surprises. Surprising your customers. Now we're taking it to another level, because the things that we've talked about so far, confirmation bias, setting expectations, looking the part, these kinds of things are things that you probably didn't really need to be told. It's always good to have a reminder. But let's jump into some things that are now going a little bit above and beyond. Something for your customers that provide a pleasant surprise. Spontaneity can be and should be systematized into your business. Salesmen could bring a token gift to start the meeting, or they could give a token gift when they sign the contract. And when I say a token gift, I'm talking about something that is small, that is not expensive, that just shows that, hey, this is something that we wanted to do for you that was nice. Send a fruit basket when the contract is signed, something like that. Whenever somebody visits the home, have them bring token gifts, golf balls, candy, candles, whatever it is. Here's a mug for Zen Windows. A warm drink is soothing, so are replacement windows. Quotes in 5 minutes. Coffee mugs. This guy does his appointments in the morning, so he brings coffee mugs. Candles. Something is just a little bit different, unusual. Pet food bowls. Something that most people don't give as gifts, and he found that to be effective. Pens with the name on it. Measuring tape is also a good one. Everybody could use a measuring tape. Get one with your name on it. It'll stay in the house for years. Plus, it says something about your exactness, how you measure, measure twice, cut once kind of a philosophy. Surprise your customers. After the gift, give them a gift. Do it. Should be appropriate for the price of the job. If it's a smaller job, maybe $25 is good. If it's a bigger job, maybe $50 is good. If it's a really big job, you might want to spend more money. Ideas for gifts? Well, things that are project appropriate. Towels or squirters for swimming pools. Maybe some kind of a window washing squeegee with your name on it for windows. I don't know, think about it for a minute. Restaurant gift cards are always easy and appreciated. Sets the stage for referrals. And this is where I really want you to understand what's going to happen when you do this stuff. You set the stage, you look good, they understand who you are, what to expect. Confirmation bias starts to kick in. You've communicated with them well, you've given them a gift, and now you've got referrals that are going to come to you. You may want to consider anniversary gifts. Anniversary gifts. In other words, it's been a year since we installed your windows, here's a widget. It's been 5 years now since we installed, here's a widget. Now, the money that you spend on those anniversary gifts can be allocated to marketing, okay? Marketing. You don't even have to pull it out of the gross profit of the job a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. Just pull it out of your marketing budget. Let's say that you install, let's do the math on this. I haven't done the math. I don't know if it'll actually work. Let's run through it. Let's say that you install 20 window jobs a month, and you do 12 months a year, so 240 per year. If we were to spend on those 240 customers $20 per year, that's going to be $4,800 that we're going to spend. Now, here's the key. How much business would that need to return to us that year for it to be a good fit? Well, let's take a look. If we wanted it to be 10%, we do 0.1 divided, $48,000 in business. And if we let's see, $48,000 in business at 10% is $4,800. So if we had an average job of $6,000, that would be about 8 jobs. And you say, well, I don't know if we will get 8 jobs if we spend that kind of money. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't necessarily want to risk not getting 8 jobs. But here's what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't, then the likelihood that your customers are going to forget about you becomes very, very high. And the likelihood of you getting ongoing referrals goes down, down, down. over time because people simply forget who you are. They forget what your name is. They forget what your company is. They just forget. And the reason they forget is because they've got other things in their life to worry about than who came and put their roof on 5 years ago. How would they know? But when you continue to, well, when you first have an identity and you communicate well and you look the part and all those confirmation bias things work to your advantage, then you give the gift and then you continue to reach out to them via marketing once per quarter and perhaps an anniversary gift. You gave them a gift at the end of the job. Those are the things that get remembered, and those are the companies that get referrals. Okay, that's all I'm trying to tell you. It's a simple process. Well, let's talk about problem resolution. Maybe you should quit assigning blame and get the problem fixed. Now, I'm a huge believer in this. I'm not a big blame guy. I'm a big blame yourself guy. And when we have problems inside our company, I like to take this same approach. And it's really easy to assign blame to your customers or to your people, but ultimately it comes down to you as the business owner. And I'm not saying that it makes it easy, and I'm not saying that automatically everything works perfectly. I'm just saying that you can't fix things that you don't have control over. This has been a big philosophy of mine for years, is if it wasn't your fault, then you can't fix it. A guy has his marriage falls apart, and he gets divorced, and he starts blaming his wife, and he starts blaming his circumstances, and he starts blaming other people, and he starts blaming, everything else. And you say, well, did you have any part in this? And the answer is almost always, well, yeah. Well, this person, cheated on me. Yeah, but what were you doing that caused that person to feel like they had a need to stray? And I know it's not black and white, and I know I'm probably offending half the people on this call right now, but I'm just saying you cannot fix problems if they are not your fault. So when in doubt, blame yourself so that you can look for what can be fixed. Because I'm telling you, if the problem is the other person, you can't fix other people. You just can't. You can't fix other people. People are going to be whatever they're going to be. But if you fix yourself, you'll be shocked at how many problems you preemptively avoid in the first place. But you can only do that with the right attitude. And the attitude is, I'm going to quit assigning blame and get problems fixed. So, first of all, if you've done everything else right, like we've talked about, problems will automatically seem 50% less serious to your customers when they do occur. They'll seem less serious. That's confirmation bias working in your advantage. The key to handling problems is responsiveness. Now, here's a quote from Jim Rohn. A rose on time is far more valuable than a $1,000 gift that's too late. Okay, so think about that in terms of dealing with customer problems. And, I've got this little thing on here, fail-safe formula for getting out of traffic tickets, and it seems really off the wall and off topic, and why would you even bring this up? And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I want to show you the value of having a plan for when something bad happens, okay? Now, this is a plan that I learned from my friend Brett Christensen, and he said, if you ever get pulled over for a traffic ticket, do these 4 things, and it works 90% of the time. Now, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it works 90% of the time. Okay, well, what are they? When you get pulled over, first things, get in the ready position. Have your window rolled down. Have your sunglasses off because police officers want to be able to see your eyes. Have your hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2 because police officers want to see that you are not a threat. And you need to do everything in your power to allow the police officer to see that you are not a threat. Okay? So window down, sunglasses off, hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. That's the ready position. That's part 1 of the formula for getting out of traffic tickets. Part 2, respect. Yes, sir, no, sir, unless it's a woman, which I have actually accidentally called a woman police officer using this. Yes, sir, no, sir. Police officers want to know that they are respected. Okay? So we got the ready position and we've got respect. Number 3, admit guilt. This will throw the police officer for a loop. Do you know how fast you're going? Yes. When I saw you behind me, I looked down and I saw that my speedometer said 53 miles per hour, and I know it's a 40. Okay. There's a contriteness. There's an admission of guilt there. And then finally, apologize. I was going 53 miles per hour, officer, and, I'm so sorry. I just wasn't paying attention. That's it. That's the fail-safe formula for getting out of traffic tickets. It works 90% of the time. And I'm here to tell you, I use this. And I'm not saying I get pulled over a lot. There was a period of time where I was getting pulled over about once a month, but now I get pulled over maybe once a year, something like that. I drive a little bit fast. And I'm telling you, this thing works. And the point of me putting this in this webinar right now is not to teach you how to get out of getting traffic tickets, although that's not a bad idea, but I'm encouraging you to have a pre-thought-out, predetermined routine of dealing with problems that inevitably are going to come up. There is no such thing as getting rid of problems completely in your business. They're always going to happen, no matter how good you are, no matter how well you do things. Some people are just irrational. Sometimes your people just won't perform well despite all of the precautions that you've taken. You just never know. So have a formula for dealing with problems. If you quickly and respectfully deal with problems, the customer's confidence will grow even more, okay? You'll actually get more credit for being awesome than if you hadn't had the problem. Consistency in message and action is the key. You've got to say it, you've got to do it. You've got to walk the talk, so to speak. You might want to consider staging problems so that you can quickly fix them, and I'm sort of only half kidding. I'm not saying you necessarily should do that, but hey, just be ready, okay? Consider more gift giving. If you mess up, if something happens, that might be a good time to give a gift. And let's finally go to the next one, minimum wage. No, really, boss, I'd be happy to do all the dirty work for you. Enjoy the hot tub. Getting your people to buy in. There's a book I read years ago called GMP, Greatest Management Principle, by a guy named, I don't remember his first name, LeBouf was his last name, LeBouf. I don't even know how you spell it. I think it's Michael LeBouf. GMP, what gets rewarded gets done. It's a really simple book. If you want your people to have the highest levels of customer service, you've got to reward them for their efforts. If you want people to act like owners, then maybe you should make them owners. Maybe you use what I call the Warner method, where all of your employees down to the receptionist are all on commission. Maybe, maybe not. There's a company called Worthington Industries. It's a steel company where they give stock ownership to employees. That's one thing. Or just incentives for performance, something that allows them to buy in and act like owners. This is what we're trying to do. So give people some incentives to handle things. And this is the formula, 6 steps for customer service, okay? I'd be happy to take any questions right now. If anybody would like to voice a question, that is the end of the webinar. If you want to ask a question, just do something. Let's see. I have a question here. Please go slower. That is too late. It's already done. I'd like to go over confirmation bias for clarity. Okay. Confirmation bias is setting an expectation so that people are looking for specific things that you do so that they will give you the full credit for doing those things instead of not giving you full credit for those things. So let me give you an example. If you tell people proactively in your marketing, we do not have high pressure sales. We do not play pricing games. We do not have long drawn out sales meetings. In the sales environment, we are going to treat you with respect, and we're going to be at your home to help you understand the best solution for your problem. We're going to give you a recommendation, then we're going to step back and let you decide. We're going to respect you in the sales environment. If you tell that to people in your marketing, on your website, on the phone when they call to set the appointment, they will then be expecting you to act the way that you just communicated. And when you get to their home, they will be very sensitive to sales pressure or how you treat them or what kinds of incentives you offer and all these different kinds of things associated with sales. If you don't first communicate those things with them, but you still show up and treat them with respect, they are a lot less likely to notice that you treated them with respect. They won't notice it. You've got to tell them what you're going to do so that they will notice it and give you credit for it. That's what confirmation bias is about, okay? GMP is a book called Greatest Management Principle. Is there a way to access this presentation? All of our presentations are recorded and put on our website. So perhaps you need to get with our customer service, and they can tune you into that. The book is Greatest Management Principle by Michael LeBouf. No, there's not a way to get a copy of that template. But yes, if you're one of our customers, you can get that because you're our customer, and you should see that anyway. I'm not sure. Are you a customer of ours? I don't recognize your name. Okay. Any other questions from anybody else? Okay, great. Paragon, yeah, we'll get that over to you. Not a problem. Anybody else? Anyone? All right. I'm not sure how to say your name, but I'll say Tahamina. Thank you for your questions and your feedback. I appreciate that. And if you'll just reach out to whoever you normally deal with, we'll get that over to you. That's something we've instituted more recently, so you may not have seen it if you've been around for a while. So thanks so much. I appreciate everybody being on the webinar today, and we'll talk to you. I don't think we have another webinar for 2 weeks, so we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much. Bye now.